Do you see any of the real Diana in Meghan? Did you?
No.
Really?
No. Sorry. We are uncensored, but oh my God, the idea there's any comparison between Diana.
She is the most insecure person I have seen in the public eye in a long time.
There was a sex tape about her.
And I saw it.
It is the cringiest, most uncomfortable piece of tape I've seen in a long time.
I think he's not the brightest bulb in the tulip patch, Harry, to put it politely. I think she is very manipulative. Meghan Markle is someone who's basically got rid of almost her entire family on her side. Harry and Meghan torched what little was left of their relationship with the royal family and what little was left, frankly, of their own reputations.
I don't know how staying silent is ever going to make things better.
I think I sort of approach that with anything that I pour my heart into and create is you've done everything you can.
I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in the right to be allowed to have an opinion. If people want to believe Meghan Markle, that's entirely their right. I don't believe almost anything that comes out of her mouth.
No one watching live television expected what allegedly happened next. Not the viewers, not the critics, and certainly not the people tasked with protecting Meghan Markle's carefully managed public image. According to sources, in the middle of his broadcast, Piers Morgan didn't do what he usually does. He didn't just criticize. He didn't just provoke. This time, he allegedly came prepared.
I thought you've been telling your truth, which is often a pack of lies, from the moment you abandoned this country.
Observers claim he presented what he believed were receipts. Photographs said to have disappeared from the internet years earlier. Images that, according to those familiar with the situation, were quietly erased and aggressively buried. These weren't from Meghan's time in the royal family. They weren't red carpet shots or studio publicity photos. They were allegedly taken years earlier, during her Soho House years. Private parties, invitation-only gatherings, late-night events that Meghan has never publicly discussed. And when those alleged images reportedly appeared on screen, the reaction was immediate. People watching said the same thing almost instinctively. This didn't match the version of Meghan Markle they had been shown for years. For a long time, the public narrative was clean and simple. A hardworking actress, a modest upbringing, a woman who stumbled into royalty as if destiny simply reached out and chose her. But according to those who claim to have seen the images, they presented a very different version.
Meghan Markle has gone back to live in California, and she's living the life she probably wanted all along.
Yes.
A life of unparalleled luxury and riches.
Not someone drifting into opportunity, but someone already positioned exactly where powerful men could see her. That's when the real question landed. If these photos were real, why were they hidden for so long? To understand why they mattered, you have to understand the contrast. The Meghan most people recognize comes from polished interviews and carefully edited documentaries. She spoke about growing up with limited means, slowly building an acting career, and living modestly even after Suits became financially successful. She talked about humanitarian goals, creative projects, and authenticity. It was a story that felt relatable and easy to admire. But the alleged images told a sharper, quieter story. One that had always existed in the background but never quite reached the surface. Sources who say they saw the photos describe Meghan at private Soho House events surrounded by wealthy, influential men. Not briefly passing through, not attending casually, but appearing comfortable, settled, and clearly inside elite circles most people will never enter in their entire lives. That kind of access doesn't align with the life she described publicly. This isn't how most working actresses spend their evenings. And it's not how someone at Meghan's reported income level gains regular access to spaces where even major celebrities are often turned away. Somewhere along the way, she was present in rooms filled with billionaires and power brokers. Rooms that matched the lifestyle she lived, but not the one she explained. And that's where the contradiction begins. Because if the Meghan shown in those alleged photos was already moving through exclusive social spaces long before Prince Harry, and if her public story erased all of that, then the question shifts. It's no longer about what she did. It becomes about why she wanted it forgotten. To understand the heart of this mystery, you have to understand Soho House itself. Soho House is not just a restaurant or a hotel. It's a gate. a private network with strict rules about who gets inside. These are members-only properties spread across the world, guarded by discretion. The founder has openly stated that membership is often denied to people who attract drama, paparazzi, or controversy. And yet, Meghan, then a cable television actress with a limited public profile, reportedly had access to multiple Soho House locations across London, Toronto, New York, and beyond. Not just as a guest. According to Prince Harry's own memoir, she treated it as a base. She stored luggage there. She knew staff personally. She moved through the properties like someone who belonged. At the same time, global celebrities were allegedly denied membership. That detail alone changes everything. Because Soho House is not a place you simply wander into. Someone must approve you. Someone must vouch for you. Someone must open the door. And that leads to the name that keeps appearing in whispers, photos, and timelines. Marcus Anderson. To understand Meghan's rise into elite social circles, you have to understand Marcus. He wasn't just a friend. He wasn't just a social acquaintance. He was a global membership director of Soho House, the man responsible for deciding who gained access to those private rooms and who remained outside. And Meghan was always inside. Sources familiar with the structure describe Marcus as someone who quietly manages access for the world's most powerful people. He arranges introductions. He connects rising figures with billionaires and industry leaders. And his movements appear to mirror Meghan's path almost exactly. Los Angeles, Toronto, New York, London, city after city, Marcus appears again. Not casually, not occasionally, but consistently, strategically. High-level executives don't relocate repeatedly without reason. And when you add the long-standing claim that Marcus played a role in introducing Meghan to Prince Harry, the pattern becomes harder to dismiss. Her rise wasn't chaotic. It wasn't random. It was steady, guided, and carefully positioned. If you're following this so far, pause and subscribe now. Because the next part is where the story moves beyond Soho House. There's another layer. One that exists even farther from cameras. The world of private yachts, luxury gatherings, and wealthy men who prefer their social events unseen. A man named Christopher Jones enters the narrative here. According to sources, he claimed to have worked within the yacht circuit during the same period Meghan allegedly did. Their time in that environment, he said, overlapped. Now, not every yacht story implies scandal. Some actresses attend for networking. Some go to meet industry contacts. Some simply accept invitations to be seen in exclusive settings. But what makes these claims matter is the pattern. Elite access before fame. Spaces far above reported income. Repeated proximity to wealthy, older men. A Soho House gatekeeper with deep ties to that world. Add the yacht circuit to that mix, and Meghan's positioning before Harry begins to look less like coincidence and more like strategy. Art years earlier in a world she has never publicly explained. Every fairy tale has two versions. The polished one presented to the world, and the quieter one shaped behind closed doors. If those pieces of her past are real, then the fairy tale doesn't collapse, it shifts. If you want part 2, deeper connections, and names most channels won't touch, like the video and subscribe now. And comment below. Coincidence or calculated climb? Because once the truth starts surfacing, it doesn't go back into the dark. What happened after the doors closed? Because once you move past Soho House access, past introductions and curated social rooms, the story doesn't slow down. It gets quieter, more private, and significantly harder to track. Sources who have followed this network for years say there's a clear line between public-facing exclusivity and what happens beyond it. Soho House, they argue, isn't the destination. It's the filter, a place where potential connections are identified, assessed, and quietly passed upward into far more discreet environments. And once someone is deemed safe, the invitations change. These aren't parties advertised on guest lists. These are private villas, overseas trips, luxury yachts anchored far from shore, events where phones are discouraged, photos are forbidden, and discretion is the real currency. According to multiple accounts, Meghan Markle's name appears repeatedly in conversations about that next tier. Not as a headline star, not as a celebrity attraction, but as someone consistently present. And that's where the timeline becomes critical. Because during the years Meghan described as modest and career-focused, she was also, according to sources, frequently traveling in ways that never fully aligned with her acting schedule. Trips that didn't match filming gaps. Appearances that didn't make sense on paper. Vacations that left no public trace. This isn't unusual for wealthy people, but it is unusual for someone who, at the time, claimed to be financially cautious and living within limited means. So how was it funded? That question keeps resurfacing. Private jets don't appear by accident. Yacht invitations aren't extended without purpose. These environments are transactional, even when they appear glamorous. People don't simply attend. They're invited for a reason, and that reason is rarely romantic. Industry insiders describe a system where visibility equals opportunity, where proximity to power can unlock doors that talent alone cannot. In that world, relationships aren't always about affection. They're about alignment. And Meghan, according to observers, aligned quickly. Before we go further, if you're still watching, pause and subscribe now. Because what comes next explains why so many people avoid discussing this openly. One of the most telling details isn't who Meghan was seen with, but who never spoke publicly about her during that period. In Hollywood, people talk. Exes talk. Former friends talk. Former associates leak. But when it comes to Meghan's pre-royal elite connections, there's an unusual silence. Not outrage. Not denial. Absence. Sources say this is typical of circles where NDAs are routine and reputations are protected aggressively. People don't speak because speaking costs them access. And access, in that world, is everything. That silence becomes more meaningful when you look at how carefully Meghan later controlled her narrative. Once she entered royal life, the story reset. Her past became simplified. Her timeline cleaned up. Anything that didn't fit the fairy tale quietly disappeared. Soho House became a footnote. Marcus Anderson faded into the background. The yacht rumors were dismissed as tabloid noise. But erasing something doesn't mean it never existed. It just means it hasn't been fully examined. Another detail often overlooked is how quickly Meghan adapted once she met Prince Harry. She didn't struggle with protocol the way outsiders usually do. She didn't appear overwhelmed by wealth, security, or exclusivity. According to palace observers, she was unusually comfortable navigating high-level social dynamics. That comfort didn't come from nowhere. People who enter elite environments without prior exposure often make mistakes. They misread rooms. They overstep. They misjudge power dynamics. Meghan didn't, which suggests she'd seen this world before. Then there's the speed. From first meeting Harry to global integration, everything moved with remarkable efficiency. Introductions were seamless. Networks aligned instantly. There was no awkward adjustment period. It looked practiced. And that's why some royal watchers quietly questioned whether Harry was her first introduction to that level of power, or simply the most visible one. Now, this is where the story becomes even more uncomfortable. Because when you examine the pattern of men connected to Meghan before Harry, a theme emerges. Older, wealthier, well-connected, men with influence far beyond entertainment. This doesn't imply wrongdoing, but it does suggest intent. In elite circles, relationships often function as stepping stones. Each connection leads to the next, larger opportunity. And by the time Harry entered the picture, Meghan already knew how to operate inside that system. Which brings us back to Piers Morgan. When Piers allegedly aired those photos, many dismissed it as bitterness, revenge, ego, but others saw something else. A disruption. Because Piers wasn't part of that elite protection network. He wasn't bound by social contracts or quiet agreements. And unlike tabloids, he didn't rely on access. He relied on attention. And attention is dangerous to systems built on discretion. That's why, according to insiders, the silence that followed was so telling. Not outrage. Not lawsuits. Just quiet containment. Let the moment pass. Let the cycle move on. But moments like that don't disappear. They linger. And now, years later, more people are re-examining the timeline. The access. The introductions. The unexplained travel. The erased years. Not to accuse, but to understand. Because fairy tales don't usually require this much editing. The controversy traces back to a single, easily overlooked moment. A line embedded deep within an old presentation few people noticed at the time. According to notes that later circulated online, Ghislaine Maxwell once referenced a yacht trip to Phuket that allegedly included Meghan Markle. The journey was described as part of a global ocean-focused initiative, presented publicly as a collaborative conservation effort and discreetly financed by Maxwell's partner, Jeffrey Epstein. At first, the reference appeared insignificant, almost casual. But as the context surrounding it resurfaced years later, the implications grew heavier. That one sentence, preserved in transcripts and leaked materials, reignited debates that had long simmered beneath the surface. For much of the public, Meghan Markle's story followed a familiar arc, a determined actress rising through Hollywood before entering the British royal family. The narrative emphasized merit, ambition, and modernity. Yet critics have long questioned whether her early professional path was as straightforward as it appeared, particularly given her proximity to elite social and philanthropic circles where influence and access often intersect. The resurfaced reference suggested something more complex. It implied that Markle may have been connected, at least peripherally, to initiatives that blended charitable messaging with exclusive networking. While no direct wrongdoing has been established, the association alone has fueled speculation about how certain relationships may have shaped her trajectory. If you're interested in how forgotten documents can resurface and reshape public narratives, make sure to subscribe and follow the series as this story unfolds. The project tied to the alleged trip was the Terramar Project, founded by Maxwell in 2012. Publicly, Terramar promoted itself as a bold attempt to unite global citizens around ocean conservation, leveraging technology, digital engagement, and educational outreach. Critics, however, later argued that the organization also functioned as a meeting ground for wealthy donors, celebrities, and power brokers, often hosting events in luxurious, invitation-only settings. Within this context, the mention of a yacht voyage to Phuket drew attention. Supporters of Markle argue that any involvement would have aligned with her documented interest in humanitarian causes. Skeptics counter that such trips often serve dual purposes, allowing participants to build influential relationships under the cover of advocacy. Photographs from comparable Terramar-related events show celebrities and donors socializing aboard yachts, though none definitively document the specific Phuket journey in question. Still, commentators argue that the absence of images has done little to quiet speculation. The focus, they say, is not leisure, but access. As online discussions intensified, questions multiplied. Why Phuket? Why a yacht? Why was Epstein's financial role described as discreet? Pieced together from leaked materials, archived presentations, and insider commentary, a pattern emerged suggesting carefully curated initiatives supported by opaque funding sources. If you want a deeper breakdown of the funding trails and archive presentations behind these projects, like the video and stay tuned for the next chapter. Financial records later revealed Epstein had provided funding to Terramar through indirect channels. While his contributions were not publicly emphasized at the time, the discovery after his criminal history became widely known cast a shadow over organizations he supported. Terramar ultimately ceased operations in 2019 amid Maxwell's legal troubles, leaving behind unanswered questions and a substantial digital footprint. Archived slide decks and videos remain accessible, including one presentation where Maxwell highlighted partnerships and international travel. In hindsight, her casual reference to the Phuket trip became the most scrutinized element of the entire presentation. Markle has never publicly addressed the specific claim. Some insiders suggest she viewed the association as inconsequential, while critics argue her silence has only intensified speculation. Whether intentional or not, the lack of clarification allowed the narrative to grow online. As the discussion broadened, commentators revisited Markle's pre-royal years in entertainment and philanthropy. During her time filming in Toronto, she became closely associated with Soho House, an exclusive members-only club known for hosting influential figures from media, fashion, and finance. Her long-standing friendship with Marcus Anderson, a senior Soho House executive, is well documented and often cited as a key link to elite social networks. Rumors, largely unproven and originating in tabloid and forum culture, have attempted to frame such environments as gateways to career advancement through informal networking. While these claims remain speculative, they persist largely because of overlapping social circles that included figures later exposed in major scandals. Comment below if you think proximity to power inevitably reshapes public narratives, or if these associations are being unfairly overstated. According to critics, the alleged Phuket trip symbolizes a broader pattern seen across elite philanthropy, noble causes paired with luxury settings, where advocacy coexists with personal ambition. Supporters argue this is an unfair interpretation, noting that high-profile fundraising often relies on influential backers and attention-grabbing venues. What remains undisputed is the impact of retrospective scrutiny. A single reference, once ignored, now functions as a prism through which Markle's past is being re-examined. Her ascent, from television actress to global public figure, has become a case study in how image, access, and association intersect. As royal scrutiny intensified ahead of her 2018 marriage, many older connections faded from public view. Yet archived material, leaked documents, and online investigations continue to resurrect questions thought long settled. The alleged Phuket voyage, whether symbolic or substantive, has become a narrative hinge. To some, it represents an overlooked chapter of strategic networking common in elite circles. To others, it challenges the image of a purely self-made rise. If you want the next installment examining archived footage, funding disclosures, and how public images are carefully constructed and later contested, subscribe, share this video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next.